right? We're fresh off from the latest presidential debate.
Oh boy.
What stood out to you?
Well, 2 hours I shall never get back ever again. And also, as we've dealt with in previous episodes, I know that hysterical, neurotic laughter isn't an answer, so I'm not going to give it.
Yeah.
No, actually, several things come to mind. Firstly, I think that Trump did a far better job this time than he did the second, and the second he did a much better than the first, which was just abysmal. He said that he would reserve judgment on whether or not the election was valid until the election actually happened. She said she would abide by it, but she set up already a narrative so she can deny its validity by implying that the Russians were interfering in the election and that they were going to intervene, and basically implying that Mr. Trump is a Russian agent. We've really, ladies and gentlemen, we have really, really gone down the rabbit hole. On the one hand, Mr. Trump vows he'll throw her in jail if he's elected. She says he's a Russian spy. One of the things, too, is that, I'm old enough to remember when the Democrats implied that any kind of Soviet communist subversion in this country was sheer paranoia. It was McCarthyism and all that. Well, now we're hearing the same sort of whispering, but from the other side. Everything's reversed. What can I say? I mean, she, of course, never saw an abortion she didn't like. And I was amused by the fact that she went on about how terrible the whole WikiLeaks releases were and the theft of things and so forth, without bothering to deny anything they had to say. As before, if he were a bit quicker on the ball, he could have hammered her a lot harder. He hammered her a bit, but not as hard as he could have. Neither of them control their expressions very well. He always looks sort of disapproving. And she has that maniacal grin. Even when he's going on about how terrible she is, she's all smiles. I mean, you begin to question not either of them, but you yourself. Am I really seeing this? Because, as I say, we've gone down the rabbit hole.
Is this, I think everyone just wants this election to be over.
I know I do.
I don't see how America can go through another election like this. Do you feel this was an outlier in terms of how bad it is, or do you think it can always get worse?
It can always get worse, and I don't see any reason why it should get better. Because let's put aside for a minute all of our partisan issues. The fact is that the American people are by and large pretty happy with this setup.
What do you mean?
Well, what is it that produced it? What produced it is the fact that we have a two-party system that everybody knows is a charade, and yet the vast majority of people would rather vote Republican or Democratic, even though they know that the fix is in, than vote third party. And that's ingrained in American DNA. It's like Pat Paulson's old joke in the election of 1968 when he ran for president. He was like, for those of you who don't know, and a lot of you won't, look him up, Google him, But Pat Paulson was a very funny comedian. And he ran for president in 68. And he said, people say to me, why should I waste my vote on you? I say, don't waste your vote on me. Waste it on one of the other guys. Well, there was a lot of truth in that, even then. Now, we're a people without morals. We're a people who are endlessly self-congratulatory. We're not immoral, we're amoral. There's a difference. And we're preachy at the same time. That's what drives one a little bit crazy. Being amoral and preachy, because you're preaching about nothing. What was the ongoing phrase, both debates, but particularly the second one? We're great because we're good. Really? Really? We're sitting here on top of a pile of infant skulls, and we can actually say we're great because we're good. Well, so was Carthage then. Okay? If that's what it takes. Mr. Trump. I get confused. One day I'll be talking about FDR. Mr. Trump says that he's pro-life. He's going to appoint pro-life justices. If he's elected, I certainly hope he keeps his promise. God knows we've been hearing this from the Republicans ever since Roe v. Wade. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if I strike you as a one-issue voter, I'm willing to go along with that. It's no good saying to me, well, it's too bad about Hitler's genocidal policies, but he's good on transportation. Which he was. I mean, the Autobahns were great. Can't fault Hitler on the Autobahns. But the fact is, if a government and a nation and a people do not mind seeing their future generations slaughtered, there is something deeply wrong with them.
I encountered a very frustrating critique. I'm encountering it very often now. It's like, okay, I'm pro-life, but the problem with conservatives is they're only pro-life in this one area. What about guns, Black Lives Matters, the homosexual community, transgender community, and animals?
Abort them all and see what you've got left. I mean, that's ridiculous. The fact is, that whole seamless garment thing was invented by Cardinal...
Bernardin?
Thank you, Cardinal Bernardin. You see, I was having a senior moment. For the sole purpose of allowing Catholics to vote for Democrats who were pro-abortion. That's why he cooked it up. And I understand, you're the Archbishop of Chicago, you want to suck up to the daily machine. I get it. I'm all for it. You bet. It's no worse than being a prelate in Massachusetts and sucking up to the Kennedys. What could possibly be wrong with that? Or being a Cardinal Archbishop of New York and hanging out with the most incredible pro-aborts at the Al Smith dinner. When Al Smith would be spinning in his grave to see the people eating in his name. You might not mind the menu so much, but the rest of it. Anyway, the point I'm making is that this is all nonsense. People say, well, what about the death penalty? Okay, what about the death penalty? The fact of the matter is the Papal States had the death penalty until 1870. And no Catholic teaching is absolutely binding on the conscience unless it has always been part of revelation. That's just the way it is. The fact is that the current antipathy toward the death penalty on the part of high-ranking prelates comes from the fact that a huge chunk of them saw the death penalty wildly misapplied through a big chunk of their lives. I'm referring specifically to the Nazis and the communists and World War II. And obviously, if you've been through an experience like that, it's going to affect how you look at things. Just as there's no good going to the son of an alcoholic and trying to explain to him the benefits of a really good Zinfandel. It's not happening. And if you think I'd be crazy enough to go up to someone, to a bishop or a pope or a priest who had lived through World War II, one of the great dictators in Europe, and start to make fine distinctions with them, you're crazy. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't waste my time. But by the same token, you have to understand where they're coming from. As far as the rest of it goes, gay rights and all that, honestly, if we are going to start erecting quasi-ethnic group status on the basis of behavior, what about us Alco-Americans? What about those of us for whom booze is very, very important? It's a key to our lives. We are the only minority whose very existence was made a crime by an amendment to the Constitution, the 18th Amendment. Where are the apologies from on high for what was done to us back then? And even now I could be arrested for drunk driving. It's true.
Well, I think you need a greater Alco lobby.
Yeah. No, we'll work on that. But no, seriously, I mean, the amount of deception, and to be fair, a huge amount of this self-deception that goes on in the nation as a whole, and especially amongst the Catholic community and her leadership, is breathtaking. So, one part of me is appalled by what I saw, by what I've seen so far through the election. But another part of me says, what are you expecting? Garbage in, garbage out. Do we deserve better than what we've got? I don't know that we do. I think we may be getting precisely the sort of leadership we need and deserve. If you've got problems with Pope Francis, well, that's nice. And how strongly did you support Pope Benedict? The problem is we tend to forget, A, that we ourselves are not perfect, and B, we don't live in a vacuum. I am very much afraid for my country, but really I should have been afraid ever since we made abortion a constitutional right. When I swore the oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, you could make the case that I was, and certainly Mrs. Clinton would, that I was swearing to defend abortion. Really? Well, okay, fine. So, what happened to Carthage? That may happen to us. I'm waiting for someone to say, oh, Carthage, Illinois is in great shape. What are you talking about? Well, I'd say read a book, but we have Kanye West's authority that reading books is bad for you.
One of the things Julian Assange said that really resounded with me, he says, in America, activism is a dirty word. If you get called an activist, that's bad. And I think that's true to some extent. It
depends. If you're a community activist, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or a community advocate. And that is true that we prefer advocacy to activists.
Yeah.
I'm a community advocate. What do you have to do to get that? You go to 50 Famous Advocate School or something? Whenever I see that on ballots, community activist and community advocate, what do you need to get that? I don't know. It's Julian Assange, interestingly enough, is now under virtual house arrest, and the Ecuadorian government have cut off his things. And as someone or other says, if WikiLeaks are true, why are they forbidden? If the WikiLeaks aren't true, why are they being forbidden? And I brave new world that has such people in it.